Good morning. My name is Lisa Henry. I'm a mom of two. I live in the Bay Area in Mountain View, and I'm proud to serve as the volunteer chapter leader for the California chapter of Moms Demand Action. This Friday is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, an annual event that takes place on the first Friday in June and marks the beginning of Wear Orange Weekend. All over California and across the country, we will wear orange to demand a future free from gun violence. Orange symbolizes the value of each person's life, and we wear it to honor those killed, wounded, or impacted by gun violence, and to call for an end to this crisis. As we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment to reflect on our loved ones, family members, and communities impacted by gun violence. Thank you. Gun violence steals far too many lives by homicide, by suicide, domestic violence, school shootings, unintentional shootings, mass shootings. But as incidents of gun violence have grown, so too has the movement to stop it. We will continue to educate, raise awareness, organize, advocate, and rally for safer communities. And we'll continue to fight for common sense solutions, like investing in community-based violence intervention, regulating who can publicly carry guns and where, stopping the proliferation of ghost guns, and other holistic solutions. California is a leader when it comes to gun violence prevention, and there's so much more we can do until there is not one more life stolen by this crisis. Today, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our gun sense lawmakers and community partners. It's my privilege to turn the mic over to Fahim Reese with 100 Years in Richmond.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fahim Reese, representing 100 Years Enterprise for Richmond, California, where we also are community partners with Moms Demand Action. We've been representing them as they represent us for the past year. And shout out to all the lawmakers for coming today. For those who support all the initiatives, the legislation, the laws that's being passed for the senseless gun violence in our community, whether it's suburbia or urbania. We all affected by these tragic crimes. 100 Years Enterprise, we steer youth from making early death decisions, or will lead a young man or young woman to an early grave or to a long term of incarceration. Myself, and well as the members of 100 Years Enterprise, we were youth, and we were also victims of the gun violence, our families, our friends. And we understand what the youth need, what the community need, and the support of the people behind us, what they need. And again, to all the lawmakers, Buffy Wicks, who she pushes the gun laws, the advocacy movements through Richmond, California, through the Bay Area, and all the other lawmakers who want to see change. But also we have to ask ourselves, once we pass the laws, once things are amended and changed, how do we get the message to the kids, to the youth, to the families? It starts with the community. It starts with people like us to say, hey, we have to take this message to the schools, to the youth, those 5, 6, 7 years old who see their families being torn apart by the senseless violence, who don't know how to understand or articulate their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions, especially the women who are dealing with so much tragic and so much pain. There's so many tears and voices that are unheard, but need to be heard. Yes, through our feelings and our emotions, but also through our words, through the spirit, through the love, and say, hey, how do we make this change? Men like myself, where are we to wrap our hands around the kids, around the women, around the community, We need our lawmakers. We need everyone to say, hey, we know what we want to do, what we need to do, but when will we make that sudden change to make that turn from left to right? How are we going to do it? We know what the why is, but the how. And one thing I always tell the kids when I go to the schools, to the prisons, to the juvenile halls, I work inside all of those, to understand is to understand. We say we understand, but then we got to get to the underlying root cause of the understanding. The root cause, the contributing factors of the things that's going on through our mind, our emotional state. And again, I want to thank you all for coming out here today. My name is Fahim Reese of 100 Years Enterprise. And let's continue to make these changes, not just in Richmond, not just in Sacramento or Oakland, but throughout the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahim. So now we'll hear from three of our gun-sense senators, Senator Susan Rubio, Senator Portantino, and Senator Blakespear.
Good morning. I'm State Senator Susan Rubio. First of all, I want to thank all of you here in the media for really coming out to highlight the crisis that we have in our hands. I stand here in solidarity with all these people behind me. I want to thank Moms Demand Action, our students demand action. As a former teacher, I'd love to see my students and our young individuals get involved in such important issues as trying to ensure that gun violence stops. But today, I wanted to focus on why I push so hard. And that's because I feel that it is up to us, the adults, to do what our children are begging us to do. There's so many children that can no longer speak, that are yelling beyond the grave, saying, please help us. I remember Columbine when I was younger, and that was a shock. So many years ago. We didn't think it could happen again. And as we fast forward and we think of Sandy Hook, how do we not do something about that? Uvalde, children trying to figure out how to stay alive, how to survive, trying to figure out a plan before they go to school. Because before in our classrooms, we used to have earthquake drills. That was the norm. Now it's constant that we're having lockdown drills and active shooter drills because we need to know how to survive. And that's happening day in and day out. There are too many to name right now. I started the year, I represent Monterey Park, with a shooting where Lunar New Year's where 11 victims passed. And I thought, can't get worse than this. Every time we say that, it just keeps getting worse and worse. Then we have Half Moon Bay. And again, more and more. Just yesterday, there was a shooting in Hollywood, Florida, where a 1-year-old little boy was shot. This is our children saying enough is enough. And they're relying on the adults to step up and have the courage to change laws to protect them. I want to introduce someone with the permission of Grandma, if I may. I want everyone to see why we're here and why we do this, because our kids can no longer continue to live in a society where they're afraid to go to school. I spoke to a mom who said instead of saying, I love you, she always says to her children as they go off to school, remember the plan. Remember the plan, because that's the last thing they want their children to know. Do we have a plan? How are we going to stay alive if there's an active shooter? I'm going to invite Ace to join me right now. This is Ace. Yes, big round of applause to Ace. Ace was 4 years old when his father was shot this past year. 4 years old. He just turned 5. And he's here standing in solidarity with all of us because he's asking us to do something. He doesn't have his father. Grandma's here with him. And it was important for them, for you to see who we're fighting for. We're fighting for these kids. Take a moment to see. He's here because he will grow up without a father. He's here because he wants to stand up for something. And he lost his father, and he will not be the last if we don't do anything about this. We're asking our federal partners to please do something with us. California has stepped up in so many ways, but we can't do it alone. We need everyone across our nation to do something about it. So I want us to give him a big round of applause for his courage. And Grandma was okay with me bringing him up because she says she lost her son and she needed to be here with us just to highlight how important it is that these children are not left without parents. So I've taken enough time. I want to thank you for your time, to my colleagues, to everyone that stands in solidarity. This is a crisis. This is a moment where we have to decide, what do we stand for? And we stand to stand with their children. So please continue to push our federal partners to do something. Have a good afternoon.
Good morning. I'm State Senator Anthony Portantino, and I'm proud to stand here with moms and students. Let's give them a big round of applause for being out this morning. I'm also the proud author of SB 2, which is a response to that horrible Supreme Court decision that threw out California's concealed carry permitting system. Think about that. An activist Supreme Court said to the state of California, we don't want you to make your state safe. They said to states all around the country, we don't want you to be safe. That's why gun control has to be done on the national level. We have to take California's success to Washington, and that's what standing in front of moms and standing in front of students demanding actions means to me. You don't need a gun to go to your child's soccer game. You don't need a gun to go to Dodger Stadium, to Disneyland, to the courthouse, to a government building. You just don't. Why that's not common sense and bipartisan staggers me. You should lock up your weapon. We know that 67% of shooters get the gun from a home that's not locked up. You lock up your car, right? Shouldn't it be common sense that you lock up your gun? Right? You got to be 25 to rent a car. Shouldn't you be at least 21 to buy a gun? Isn't that common sense? Why is that not a bipartisan solution? Think about it. You shouldn't go to a mall packing your gun. This notion that, I'm going to use it to help somebody. The last thing I want is somebody shooting across a crowded mall. People are going to die. People are dying. So last year when I was presenting the precursor to SB 2 on the floor, at that very same moment, the Uvalde shooting happened. Think about that. Think about the irony. Think about the tragedy. Here we were in California passing a law to do the right thing, and children were dying in Texas. And then, of course, we saw the parade of politicians in Washington sending prayers, right? Well, I pray that they grow a spine. I pray that they grow a spine in Washington and save a life by enacting sensible gun control. We know that strong gun control laws work. We know that California is safer per capita than Alabama, than Mississippi. This notion that more guns makes us safe is the exact opposite. More guns makes us more likely to get shot. A gun in a home makes it more likely that somebody's going to die from that gun. A gun in the street is more likely that somebody's going to get shot. So our laws work. Our laws make us safer. Yeah, prayers are nice. But we need leaders who are going to lead. We need leaders who are going to remember that we shouldn't send little children off to school and wonder if they're going to come home safe. Think about that. When we went to school, our parents didn't think about whether we'd come home safe. Today's parents have to think about that. I got a call when my daughter was at the mall that there was an active shooter at that mall. I got calls from the other parents who said, "What's going on?" Luckily, nobody was hurt that day. But that's a real construct in today's society. That's a real fear. And so we must pass SB 2 in California. We're going to put it on the governor's desk, right? Are we going to put SB 2 on the governor's desk? Are we going to put SB 2 on the governor's desk? Is he going to sign it? Yes. And I want to give a shout out to Governor Newsom. He is the sponsor of SB 2. Attorney General Ron Bonta is a sponsor of SB 2. And again, what that says is you must be an upstanding person to be trusted with a gun. This notion that we're going after law-abiding citizens through SB 2, it's the exact opposite. We're defining who should be responsible with a gun. If you have a history of domestic violence, we're not giving you a gun. If you're on social media threatening your neighbor, we're not going to give you a gun. Right? Again, that's common sense. And so that's what SB 2 does. It creates a list of requirements for the state. So one sheriff can't just use largesse to give out a gun that's different to another sheriff in another county and another county. We're going to have a uniform permitting system, and we're going to have a robust list of prohibited places. Again, you don't need a gun to go to your daughter's AYSO soccer game, right? You need a lemon slice or an orange slice or an apple slice, right? That's what you need when you go to your daughter's soccer game, not a weapon. And so moms and students and activists, thank you for holding us accountable, because it's the role of the activists to make us do better. And we're going to send this loud voice from California all the way to Washington. We're going to continue to advocate for sensible gun control because we know it works. Let me hear you all say it. We know it works. We know it works. We know it works. So thank you for being out this morning. SB 2 is going to pass. The governor's going to sign it, and Californians are going to be safer because of it. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name's Catherine Blakespear, and I'm a newly elected senator from San Diego, Orange County area. And I come from having been the mayor of the city of Encinitas for 6 years, where I was a member of our Mayors Against Illegal Guns and worked closely with Moms Demand Action and Everytown and all of the really important organizations who are fighting this fight. So what we know is that we are not safer with more guns. And I think there is widespread confusion or a totally different narrative, and we are fighting against that every single day to say we are addicted to guns in this country. We have an epidemic of gun violence, which we can do something about. These are preventable deaths and tragedies. And we rely on all the people behind me for all of their amazing, great work. Individual people, people who've suffered gun violence, people who know that we can change the world if we all work together and activate around that. I want to say thank you so much to the advocates behind me. Give you a big round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because we in elected office who care about this, we stand on your shoulders. We take your ideas. We actualize a different vision of a world where we don't have kids in school who are hiding under their desks, who are fearful. My 9th grader last week was doing that, texting me while I'm on the floor to say they don't know what's going on. The teachers told them to get away from the windows. And after this event passes, imagine what is happening to every one of those kids. More than half that school went home that day. The trauma that they're living with in a daily way from the fear of the possibility of gun violence because of our society and our acceptance of guns. We really have to say this is unacceptable. In California, as Senator Portantino said, we are safer because of our gun control laws. Statistically, there's no question about that. So the question is, what more can we do? And we can do a lot. There is a lot of potential for us to do even more in this state. You see the legislators who are here today who will be doing that, who are doing that, who bring things forward every single year to make it so that we're safer here in this state. But I also just challenge us to be aggressive, to be bold. I had a bill this year that would have required every single person in the state who owns a gun to have an insurance policy. So if your gun accidentally kills someone, like if your car accidentally injures or kills someone, the insurance policy pays. We insure everything from your trip to your life. Everything that's a risk in this country, we insure. But I couldn't even get it to the first committee hearing. This is the reality of what are we willing to say, okay, that is okay, that we'll push for, that's important, that will change the picture. Because there are ambitious and bold things that we could be doing that would make it so that we had fewer guns in the hands of those who shouldn't have it, and that gun ownership was safer. Because right now, gun ownership is not safe, and we have to change that picture. So I'm here to be a champion for all of you in the years that come, and I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad that you're giving energy behind this, because we could not do it without you. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senators. Ending this crisis will take all of us. So we will now hear from Zinat from March for Our Lives, and then we'll hear from some of our Assembly members, starting with Assemblymember Gabriel.
I'm going to lower this. Good morning, everyone. I don't know about you all, but I have not had my caffeine yet, so still waking up. I'm Zinat Yahya. I am the Director of Policy at March for Our Lives, and excited to be here in solidarity with you all today. So we all know this. California is looked to as an example, a framework to guide other states toward safer communities and fewer children dying at the hands of guns. We need to make sure, though, that we're doing more than the basic gun laws to stop this horrific epidemic. We need a holistic approach that actually addresses the trauma that guns continue to cause. My generation is sickened by gun violence, whether it's from barricading classroom doors, from streaming bullets, witnessing the terror of gun violence in their communities that are tearing their towns apart, or watching the never-ending news cycle of shootings. When youth are living and dying from gun violence, it is crucial to do everything we need to ease the weight of nonstop violence. We're grateful to be here today, standing in solidarity with lots of allies in the space who are continuing to push for a safer California for younger people. And even more grateful to be part of this larger coalition to push efforts for really critical legislation this year. One of those pieces of legislation is AB 28. And this would provide much needed funding towards effective initiatives like the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program. To stop gun violence, we must continue to reach the communities most impacted. This legislation would also support the work of the California Firearms Research Center. And we are on our way towards a better future when we really understand what the gun violence epidemic is all about. We need to make sure that we're sharing this knowledge with healthcare providers and other stakeholders about counseling patients on firearm safety and interventions to prevent firearm suicide. And bills like AB 28 plans to do all of that and more, and we look forward to when the governor has the opportunity to sign it into law. Gun violence is a matter of life or death, and if we don't take this crisis seriously, then we are choosing death. We must pass more, we must do more, we must protect more, and we must prevent more. This act and all the other work that folks are doing today and all of our lawmakers are doing today brings us one step closer to addressing the gun violence epidemic. And I am just grateful to be here in solidarity with all of you again and look forward to the work that we do together.
We're switching up the order a little bit. Thank you, Jesse Gabriel, for letting me jump in. My name's Pilar Chiavo. I'm the Assemblywoman for District 40, which is the Santa Clarita Valley and North San Fernando Valley in North Los Angeles County. I'm here today because I am a mom who is demanding action. I am here today because it's time to keep our communities safe from gun violence, and we know that this is a political choice. We know that what we need to make happen, we're making happen in California and we're leading the way, but there are lawmakers who are falling in line with the gun lobby because of money they get during campaigns and election seasons, rather than listening to the priorities of the majority of Americans. And that's when we get what we have now. And what we have now is gun violence that leads the nation in causing deaths to children and teens in our country. Firearms accounted for 19% of childhood deaths. Nearly 3,900 children died in gun-related incidents in 2021 alone. And today we see politicians trying to ban books and T-shirts with rainbows on them, instead of taking action on the issues that really threaten the lives of our children the most, which is gun violence. So today my message for the far-right extremists who continue to put our communities at risk is simple. Rainbows and books aren't killing our children. Guns are. I'm so proud to share that my concealed carry bill, AB 1133, just passed the Assembly yesterday. And AB 1133 would establish a statewide curriculum for concealed carry weapons permits. We know that less guns make us safer and are the solutions. However, we have 121,000 people in California with concealed carry licenses, and we have to ensure that those people are properly trained and they know what the laws are when it comes to gun safety. This is just one piece of what we're doing in the state, and the leadership of Senator Portantino, Jesse Gabriel, Buffy Wicks, all of my colleagues here today are continuing to stand up to the gun lobby and put our kids first. We know that more is needed on this issue. And how do we know? Because it continues to happen in all of our communities. It's happened in my community, in Santa Clarita, the 4th safest city in the nation, where we lost 2 children to gun violence at our local high school. And right now there's a lot of kids who are graduating, and there's an empty seat at our graduation where Dominic should have sat. So it's upon every one of us to take action to ensure that we don't have any more empty seats at graduations. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse Gabriel. I am proud to represent the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles County. Also proud to be one of the founders of the legislature's Gun Violence Prevention Working Group, which I founded with Buffy Wicks and Sharon Quirk-Silva and Cotty Pichi-Norris and Rebecca Bauer-Cahan and so many of my other colleagues. And the reason we founded a working group to work on guns is because we were frustrated, because we're parents, because we know that thoughts and prayers won't keep our kids safe. And we were sick of politicians in Washington, after all of these mass shootings, after all of these cycles of gun violence in our communities, offering thoughts and prayers. And we knew that we needed to do more. And as we say, when Washington refuses to step up and act, we in California have to step up and act. And we are very, very fortunate to have some incredible activists behind us. And so I want to thank the organizers of this press conference, Moms Demand Action, and all of their activists for their incredible work. And I also want to thank all of the survivors who are at the heart of this movement, the young people that you've seen who are leading the charge on keeping our community safer. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and you've heard that so clearly from so many of my colleagues. I am proud to have authored a bill this year, AB 28, that they talked about, that would impose a very modest tax on the sale of guns and ammunition to fund violence intervention programs, to fund school safety, to support law enforcement as they work to address gun violence in our communities, to support survivors of gun violence. We have never been able to get that bill out of a House of the legislature, and just last week, we got that bill out with almost 80% of the legislature voting in support. And we are very, very fortunate to have some incredible new members of the legislature. You just heard from Assemblywoman Schiavo. I think you understand we are, and we have Rick Chavez-DeBur and Josh Lowenthal and Mike Fong and some incredible folks who are coming in with the passion to work and to make change. And, you know, it's so frustrating, I think, for many of us as we have this debate about gun violence and we hear all of these excuses. And the sad reality is that this is a uniquely American phenomenon. We hear people talk about mental health challenges. We hear them talk about poverty. We hear them talk about video games. Guess what? In every other country on the planet, they have mental health challenges. In every other country, they have poverty. In every other country, kids have access to violent video games. What they do not have is mass shootings that terrorize our communities, that terrorize young people in schools. Gun violence has become the leading cause of death of children in the United States of America. That is a shameful statistic. My oldest, who is in first grade, just had an active shooter drill. That is a sign of our failure on this. So we know that gun violence is a uniquely American phenomenon, and we know why that is. Because there is easy access to weapons of war. This is a public policy failure. We are making choices as a society and as a country that are prioritizing the rights of a very small minority of gun extremists over the safety and well-being of our children. And that is shameful. What is also shameful about this is that the overwhelming majority of the public, and you see this reflected time and time again, supports common sense gun safety legislation, Democrats and Republicans. And what we have is we have some extremists in the NRA who are preventing progress. So we're not going to let them win. I know folks often feel hopeless as we see how these mass shootings continue to happen, as we see these cycles of violence in our community. But this group of folks here, the activists and the legislators, refuse to give in to the cynicism, refuse to give up. We are going to continue to work. We are going to continue to fight. We are going to continue to pass common sense gun safety legislation, and ultimately that is going to save lives. So I'm incredibly grateful for the activists here. Let's give them another round of applause, and let's get to work.
Good morning. I'm Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie-Norris. I am proud to represent California's 73rd Assembly District. And so I'm here this morning as an Assemblywoman, but more importantly, I'm here as a mom. And like all the moms standing behind me, I'm a mom who's scared, I'm a mom who's angry, and I am a mom who is demanding action. We don't have to live this way. We should not have to live this way. We should be able to go to church, to go to the grocery, to go to a concert. We should be able to take our kids to school without being afraid. We've heard some really horrifying statistics today as we've talked about the scope and scale of America's gun violence epidemic. Did you know that in a typical year in America, more preschool children will die from gun violence than police officers? That's right. More preschool children are dying because of guns than police officers. And I'll tell you something, that statistic is so horrifying that I always have to double check. I always have to look it up again. Because while that might be a typical year in America, it is anything but typical. There is no other country on earth, no other developed country on earth that's experiencing the kind of gun violence pandemic that we are in America today. There's no other country on earth. This is a uniquely American tragedy and a uniquely American horror story. But here's the good news. We know what needs to be done to change this story. We know what needs to be done to end gun violence in America. We know that gun safety laws work. We know that common sense gun safety laws work. Because guess what? They work in every other country that has them on this earth. So we know what needs to happen. And as you've heard from my colleagues, here in California, we are doing everything in our power to keep our kids and our communities safe. But we need action at the federal level. We need politicians in Washington to step up. We need them to care more about these kids than they do contributions from the NRA. And so that is why today we are calling for action from Washington. We're calling for action from Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. Stand up for our kids, fight for our kids. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for everything that you do. Together, we are going to win this fight to end gun violence in America. Thank you.
A man dies when he refused to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refused to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refused to take a stand for that which is true. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that. My name is Mike Gibson. I proudly represent the 65th State Assembly Districts. Those are areas of Watts, Willowbrook, where I was born and raised. Compton, Carson, North Long Beach, Harbor Gateway, North and South, Wilmington, also San Pedro. I represent this community in Los Angeles where gun violence is absolutely prevalent. I want to thank Moms Demand Actions and this great coalition, as well as the Gun Preventative organization, a group that I work with as my colleagues, continue to fight and put forth as a primary focus at every legislative session, dealing with good, sensible gun legislation. So I want to thank them. So can you put your hands together and give my colleagues a round of applause for being drum majors on this issue? The first Friday of each month in the month of June is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Today we recognize more than 100,000 individuals killed or wounded by gun violence in the United States of America. Orange represents gun violence. I'm reminded of a young girl who was playing on a playground at school in Chicago, where she was killed. And after the killing, to commemorate that tragedy that transpired in Chicago, the students at that school wore orange to commemorate, as a signal to say no more. Hunters wear orange, watch this, so that other hunters see them. So orange is a sign of protection. See us today. See the babies' faces today. See the parents who have lost their children today. But also recognize those who wear orange who have been survivors of gun violence in this country. Damn it, enough is enough. We stand in solidarity today. I am grateful that my colleagues in the State Assembly yesterday passed Assembly Bill 1089, strengthening more gun-sensible legislation around ghost guns. And my colleagues, I want to thank them for, one, not buying into the rhetoric, for continuing to stay focused and make sure that we choose our children over guns in this country. Because guess what? Damn it, they're worth fighting for.
Good morning. I'm Assemblymember Sharon Quirk-Silva. I represent Orange County, and North Orange County, and parts of Los Angeles. I, too, hear the words of my colleagues and these incredible, unified group of women and men who stand together against gun violence. We've heard the stats. We know what it means in the United States for our children. But we also know, as a teacher myself for almost 30 years, I know firsthand what it is to lead a group of students through active shooter drills. I know what it's like to sit in the cafeteria where we're instructed on what to do if somebody comes to our campus. I know what it's like to hear the code word that would be blasted on our campuses in case of somebody intruding onto our campus. But we also know that just more than a year ago, in Uvalde, 9 and 10-year-olds were shot down along with their teachers. Just this last week, there was a program on what is it like for those families now, a year later. How have their lives been broken, torn apart? How are they trying to build without their loved one? And a 10-year-old young girl who lost her cousins now is dealing with PTSD because of the trauma that she not only witnessed, but being a survivor. She feels guilty that she was not taken and her cousins were. This is atrocious. We know that it's not just the atrocities, but it's the aftermath, the 100 millions of people that are affected by the trauma of losing someone, the communities from Las Vegas to cafes, to temples, to parades, to so many. We could talk so much, but I do want to talk very quickly about the bill that I have, my bill, AB 455, which closes a critical loophole by restricting individuals who are undergoing mental health diversion from purchasing firearms. Now, let me be clear. We know that most people who are suffering from mental health issues are not perpetrators. But this also would say that if they are in a diversion program, that they should not have a weapon. This is my bill, AB 455. I'm confident that will pass because I am one of the older members here of this, my colleagues, and I was here in 2012 when even talking about gun legislation was a huge no. When even I, as an elected, voted on some of the first gun legislation, I was threatened by the NRA to be recalled. We know we've made progress. There's more to do, but that there are some legislators that feel comfortable wearing an AR-15 pin tells us we have work to do. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Buffy Wicks. I represent the beautiful East Bay, Oakland, Berkeley, and Richmond area. And I think many of you know my husband had been on the job for 5 days as Gabby Gifford's legislative director when she was a member of Congress, when she was shot in the head. One of his colleagues died. A 9-year-old girl died. A federal judge died. 18 people were shot. It obviously changed Gabby's life forever. So this issue is very deeply personal to many of us. Many of us have experienced the loss of life. Many of us have experienced irreparable damage to those that we love. And I want to deliver one message. Enough is enough, and we can change this. We can change this because of the people here, the people across this country who are demanding change. My 6-year-old is well-versed on hiding from gunmen in her school, on lockdown drills. She started at TK when she was 4. She came home to tell me that they had a drill where they had to hide under the desk at the age of 4 years old. That is what is happening in this country right now. And that is why when I got elected in 2018, a number of us formed the Gun Violence Prevention Working Group to say, not here in California, not on our watch. Enough is enough, and we are going to fight this issue. That is why I've run legislation along with Mr. Gibson to end the proliferation of ghost guns. That is why I put into statute the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Act. That is why every year I carry the budget ask to fund the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Act. And I'll tell you, and we know this because we're facing this budget season right now, it's difficult right now. We don't have the money in the California budget for all the things that we care about. And so we are fighting for scraps to fund violence intervention programs that we know work. And that is why AB 28, the bill that my colleague Jesse Gabriel is carrying, is so important because it will fund these programs every year to end the gun violence in our communities. I just want to end with a little bit of hope. Since Moms Demand Action was founded shortly after Newtown, and since Giffords was founded shortly after Newtown, there have been over 500 pieces of state legislation across this country aiming at ending gun violence in our communities. And a month to the day after Uvalde, our federal lawmakers passed, for the first time in decades, measures to end gun violence in our communities. And it was because they decided, you know what, we have to do something because we are demanding change. Parents are demanding change. Teachers are demanding change. Faith leaders are demanding change in our communities. And so they took action. And you know what? It wasn't enough. And we need more. 9 out of 10 Americans support comprehensive background checks. We have to have federal action on this issue. And the last thing I'll say is, what if we had 0 gun deaths in America? 0 gun deaths in America. We have put people to the moon. We can do this. We have to decide we're going to do this. I am so proud of my F ranking from the NRA. I am so proud of that. That means I believe in 0 gun deaths. Let that dream become a reality. Thank you so much for the activists that are here. We cannot do it without you. 0 gun deaths in America.
Good morning. I'm Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan from the 16th Assembly District and a Moms Demand Action volunteer before I was a legislator. It's such an honor to be here, and I want to just us to take a moment to look at the faces of these kids and to read the sign. We can end gun violence, and we can do it for them. We can do it for their future. And people hide behind the Constitution to allow people to die every day by gun violence. But I want us to remember that the Constitution also guarantees us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we deserve all of those things. And so we must fight every day for every one of the constitutional principles, including the right to live, and to survive, and to thrive. But you've probably heard enough from us politicians, and we have an incredible group of Students Demand Action here, and it's their future we're fighting for. So I've asked them to come up and take my time and each share one sentence of what this means to them. So come on up, guys.
Hi there. I'm the president of our local chapter of March for Our Lives and Students Demand Action at a high school in Elk Grove, Censomnes Oaks High School. And the fact that we have to have a club at our school dedicating to ending gun violence is the fact is we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to be thinking about escape routes in our classrooms every day at school. We shouldn't have to experience lockdowns and be in fear 24/7. And Cooper here, his 11-year-old sister has to experience lockdown drills, and it shouldn't be a thing in a country like ours. And that's why we're here to support direct action through legislation written by our assembly members here, not thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Brian Piazza, and I just want to say that it's summertime. We're supposed to be outside, relaxing, swimming, and we're here demanding action for a cause that should have been subsided a long, long time ago. So just to put that in your brains.
Hi, I'm Allie. Mass shootings are a problem here in America. And I think that it's crazy that me as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old just fresh from college is here today, like Brian said, protesting the same thing. 20 years ago, were students worrying about this same very issue that we're worrying about today, about getting shot in our classroom? I think it's absolutely insane that we have a bucket in the corner of our classroom designated on the possible chance that there is a school shooter. We should not be using the bathroom in buckets hiding from active shooters at school on a campus where we're meant to feel safe. I think we need to make change.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cooper Hinshaw, and I wanted to go off of what Ari said. The two most important people in my life that I love dearest with my heart is my two sisters. And knowing that my 11-year-old sister is in this position of hiding, I don't know how I'm supposed to sleep at night not knowing that my loved ones are safe.
Hi, my name is Alana Johnson. I'm here with our March for Our Lives Club. And I was talking earlier about how it's so common that we've grown accustomed to feeling numb when we hear that there's a drill on campus or that, we have 4 levels of lockdown on our campus. Oftentimes we don't know what's happening because of disorganization. And a lot of us, it doesn't even faze us anymore. Like, we're so used to this, and that shouldn't be a thing. Year after year, we're facilitating walkouts at our school and then facing reprimands after that. Sorry, not the best speaker. But thank you. Sometimes after that we'll get reprimanded from faculty, and we should be supported, or this shouldn't even be a thing though. We shouldn't have to reach out for support from our faculty members, and our teachers shouldn't feel bad for wanting to support their students on a cause that's so so important, yeah. We can end gun violence, and enough is enough.
Hello, everyone. My name is Titilokpe Olotu. I immigrated to America when I was 9 years old from Nigeria because I was scared. How would I live? How would I get an education? And just 2 weeks after arriving in America in Texas, I remember we had to go over gun drills. We were told to hide under our tables. Now, I immigrated to America alone, so I wasn't with my family at the time. And I remember calling my mom and saying, we have to hide from gun shooters. We have to hide because we don't know if we can get shot. We don't know if we're safe. I immigrated from my country here to America to feel safe. And the fact that I have to fear for my life, I have younger siblings. I have a young brother who's 1. And I cannot imagine many other immigrant children who leave their country to come to America for a better education, for a better future, to make a change. And we have to fight for our lives as children. Look at the kid holding the poster, the baby. It is sad. Enough is enough. We need to put an end to this.
I immigrated from Iraq when I was 3 because of the war, because of the guns, because of the violence, because of all of that. And the fact that I am in this country, it is supposed to be a free country, it is supposed to be a place where we feel safe, and the fact that I'm here today protesting against the same thing that happened to me when I was 3 years old is just, it's just absolutely atrocious. And I feel like at some point we have to start marching, we have to stop marching, and there has to be some real actual change.
Hello, everyone. My name is Musa, and I'm a student at CO with all of them. And once Assemblywoman kindly asked us to speak, I decided instead of giving my subjective opinion, I might as well do some research and give you some objective facts. So, each day, 12 children die from gun violence in America, and another 32 are shot and injured. And there are approximately 50 million students in America, and out of these 50 million, an estimated 4.5 million have access to a loaded gun with no protection on it, like not in a safe, just sitting in their house. So, and there's 11 of us here today. That means, on average, one of us would have access to a gun. And if any day, I got bullied at school, you never know. Like, I could change on any day, I could just snap like this. It's crazy to me that from the amount of students we have here, on average, one of us has access to a gun. So I think that's there has to be something done. And I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you.
We hear a lot about prayers and thoughts and prayers, but here's the thoughts and prayers that's going around in Gen Z's head. I pray that I'm not shot today. I think I might be shot if I go to the mall. Let's turn thoughts and prayers to policy and action. Because there is hope if we have the courage to see it. Ace is here. He's here not playing at the park, he's marching. Our generation is here. We are standing up. There is hope. There's courage, because this was not the American dream any of us were promised. And I know Ace's dad is looking down, and he is proud of his son being here, marching. We march for our lives. That is a terrible thing that we have to say, but that is the reality, and we are changing it.
Hi, I'm Lena. I also go to CO with all of these wonderful people. Last year, we all marched against gun violence, and this year we had to do the same thing. And I don't think this should be a yearly thing. I don't think it should be a thing. I think we should not have to face this huge problem in America, and I think we should not have to say that we have to march for the same thing year after year. I think we should just end it once and for all, and with, hard work, we can do that. We can end gun violence, and enough is enough.
Hi, I'm Ava Birchstein, and I just wanted to say, just to add on to all these wonderful people's thoughts, is that thoughts and prayers is not enough anymore. This is an epidemic, and it shouldn't be an epidemic. This has been going on for far too long, and it is only a problem in America. The statistics show that this is only a problem in America, and it's up to us to change it. We demand action now. These are our children that we are fighting for. These are babies in preschool. Enough is enough, and we must demand change and action now.
I think we got them all. Well, I just want to say thank you. This generation could not be more incredible, and it's not their job to save us, but I know they will. So thank you. And I want each and every one of you to know, from each of us here today that serve in this Capitol every day, you guide us, and we're fighting for you.
Well, the worst thing to do at a press conference is to follow up a dozen remarkably eloquent and passionate high school and college students. But thank you. Let me first start by just saying thank you so much to all of the students, all of the youth, all the parents who are here today. My name is Mark Berman. I represent the 23rd Assembly District in the California State Assembly. That includes communities like Palo Alto and Stanford University, Mountain View, and Half Moon Bay. Half Moon Bay, where there was a mass shooting just 4 months ago. 4 months ago, I was standing on the steps of the Capitol, and we were having a vigil for the Monterey Park victims. And in the back of my mind, I was kicking myself because I could tell that I was growing desensitized to these vigils. I was growing desensitized to these weekly mass shootings in our communities. 10 minutes later, I was across the street in my office when I first got a text that there was a mass shooting in my district, that 7 farm workers were shot where they worked. An 8th was gravely injured. And all of a sudden, instead of researching bills and introducing policy, I was researching how many gun deaths we have in California, how many gun deaths we have in America. And the reality is that we are doing much better in California than the average state. In California, our smart gun sense laws save 2,000 people a year on average in comparison to the average state. That's not in comparison to your Texas and Florida, but that's still not enough. And we still have to do more. We need to create a society where all of our youth feel safe going to school, where all of our youth feel safe going to the mall, where all of our youth feel safe going to places of worship. It's insane. I mean, you know, you have people behind me who fled war-torn nations with despots as leaders to come to America to try to seek refuge, to try to feel safe. And then they get here and they realize that they're in just as much danger as they were from the countries that they fled. So we have so much more to do. I'm proud of the bills that my colleagues have introduced. I have 2 bills that I won't get into the deep details of, but AB 1598, which focuses on getting accurate information to people before they buy a gun. Because somebody mentioned, I think it was Musa mentioned, that so many people have guns in the home. People buy guns because they think it'll make themselves safe. But data shows, and the reality is, that if you own a gun in the home, the odds increase dramatically that you or a loved one will become the victim of gun violence. That could be interpersonal violence, that could be self-harm, that could be an accident. So AB 1598 will get more information to people before they buy a gun, when they're getting a gun safety certificate, which you have to get before you buy a gun, to let them know, hey, I know that you think this might make you safe, but the reality is it puts you in more harm. And then AB 1420 actually came out of the research that we were doing around AB 1598, because my staff was calling gun shops, and not every gun shop follows the law. Not every gun shop follows the process that they're supposed to before you buy a gun. And so AB 1420, which is in partnership with Attorney General Rob Bonta, gives the AG's office more enforcement of laws that govern the sale, transfer, and storage of firearms, to make sure that if the federal government won't do what we need it to, and if certain guns can be purchased in California, let's make sure that at least the gun shops are following the laws that we have. So thank you again to all the students. I apologize that you even have to be here on a beautiful Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, whatever morning it is. But we're going to do better, and we're going to do better because you're pressing us, because you're keeping the fire under our butts to make sure that we do more to keep our communities safe. Thank you very much.
Did we miss any Assembly members who were planning?
Hey everyone, good morning. Damon Connolly, Assembly District 12, representing Marin and Sonoma counties. I too want to thank the students for your activism around this issue. It's an issue that unfortunately is affecting all of our communities, and I'm proud of our colleagues for really tackling this issue from a variety of angles. And I just wanted to quickly mention one bill that I brought forward this year, AB 92. Too often what we're seeing with these mass shooters now, as they perpetrate violence on youth in our schools, in our communities, at shopping centers, is they're wearing body armor. And we saw this most explicitly in Buffalo, where a shooter came on site was confronted by a security guard who shot the perpetrator but was unaffected due to body armor. And then, in turn, the shooter shot the security guard and then 10 others and injured more. So New York had the sense to pass stringent laws regulating body armor. We felt it was important to bring that effort to California, given, I think, what we can hopefully be proud of is our leadership in this state on this overall issue. So what AB 92 says is if you are prevented from owning a firearm for whatever reason, you now will also be prevented from owning body armor. We have to step up. We have to continue to confront this issue from all angles that we can. We could not do it without the activism of groups like Moms Demand, our students. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And please know that you have strong partners in this legislature. California will continue to seek to be the leader in the nation on this unfortunate issue, but it's something that we have to address and will continue to do so. So thank you.
So thank you to all of our Assembly members who joined us today. We're going to close with Mona Cadena from Equal Justice USA, who's part of the CalVIP Coalition.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here. My name is Mona. I'm the Policy Director for Equal Justice USA. We're a national organization working towards a world where violence is rare and our communities are thriving. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you, and it's so great to be here with Students Demand Action. It's always great to be with student activists. So you've heard a little bit about the CalVIP program, the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Program, and we are proud to participate in that coalition that has been working to support the work that Assemblymember Wicks has been doing. We are over 200 organizations, local, state, national, and even international organizations who are working in California to make sure that the organizations and the people who are on the front lines of violence have the resources that they need to fund this critical work. And there are many, many reasons why we're here today, and you've heard a lot of them. One of those is centuries of disinvestment in our communities that allows violence and trauma to fester. Communities across our state and in this country have solutions to build safe communities, but that work is tremendously underfunded, as you heard Assemblymember Wicks talk about. It is way past time to invest in our communities and invest in work that actually decreases and prevents violence. And we must do that for ourselves, for our communities, our children, and all of our loved ones. And one way that we do that, as you heard from Assemblymember Wicks, is the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Program. This is a way for the state to invest in communities by funding this life-saving work you've heard about. Organizations like Advance Peace, Youth Alive, across this country who are in our neighborhoods. CalVIP has grown from a small program from this year granting over $200 million across our state over the last year. But right now we are facing a funding cliff. You've heard, we all know about the deficit in our budget, and every dollar is being fought for. But this cliff has a parachute. AB 28, which you've heard about, will ensure that CalVIP is funded and that critical work on the ground to prevent and intervene in gun violence will continue. AB 28 is one way, and it's one way to invest in gun violence and prevention for our communities in perpetuity. AB 28, as you heard, is a small, modest tax that will ensure that annually we have money in our state budget that goes directly to communities who can access for the work that they're doing. So I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I join all of you in crying enough is enough, because we should not be here today to fight for our lives.
Thank you, Mona, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We want to thank our student and survivor volunteers for being here, and thank you to our partners and our lawmakers. We all deserve a future free from gun violence. You can take action today by asking your friends and family to text the word California to 64433 to ask their lawmaker to vote yes on AB 28. As you heard, it has passed the Assembly, so we are asking our state senators now to vote yes on AB 28. So thanks again for coming. We're going to head into the Capitol third floor gallery for a Wear Orange resolution. And after that, our volunteers are going to do a postcard drop over in the swing space.
And I know you said it's over, but the teacher really wants to say something
Oh.
for these students. Do you mind if she takes a
Go
moment?
for it.
Okay, come on up.
Hi, I'm so sorry to take up more of your time, but my name is Michelle Lobby, and I am speaking today wearing several hats. I am a mom with Moms Demand Action. I am a parent. Sorry, that's the same thing. Sorry, nervous. I'm also a teacher. I teach at this high school where you just heard all these lovely people speak from. Thank you. And as such, I'm also the advisor for our chapter of March for Our Lives and also Students Demand Action. And I'm also just an American and just a person. And so as such, I'm here speaking passionately like so many of these other wonderful people. And I think I'd just like to end on a message of like hope and also like an acknowledgement of the complexity of this issue. I'm so grateful that Mona just talked about the underserved communities and also that we talked about the facts when it comes to there being all different kinds of violence. There's the violence that makes the headlines, like all of, you just heard this great perspective about what it's like to endure school shooting drills, et cetera, and I know that both as a parent and as a teacher, et cetera. And of course, those are the ones that make the headlines. But there are countless instances of gun violence that plague this country on a day-to-day basis that don't necessarily make the headlines. Or there's also like suicides. That's a big part of what contributes to gun violence being the #1 killer of children and youth in this country. And so those often don't get talked about enough. And so I think the message of hope that I have that I heard on this great episode of The Daily from the New York Times is that whenever I feel despondent or down about the possibility of what's in front of us and just how massive this and complex this problem feels, is that it's about Swiss cheese. And this idea that like all these Assembly bills and Senate bills that we've heard about today that are so admirable in their pursuits, like no one of them is going to end the epidemic of gun violence in this country, unfortunately. However, if this slice of Swiss cheese is on top of this one, on top of this one, on top of this one, it lessens the likelihood of gun violence in this state. And I'm so grateful to be a Californian and to be out in the front of this issue and to be speaking on behalf of the youth, which are the people we are fighting for. So thank you very much, and enough is enough. We can end the gun violence. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. You can head into the gallery.